Welcome back to One Piece Explained. We are less than 12 hours away from the One Piece live action series by Netflix and Tomorrow Studios, and this morning they decided to put out a final trailer. Now, there are a bunch of new shots in here, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to cover all this in time, but if you're watching this, then I guess I pulled it off. If you're new to my channel or still haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you do. Not only does it help the channel grow and reach more people, but if you've enjoyed my trailer breakdowns so far, then you may enjoy my in-depth episode breakdowns that I plan on doing for every episode of the live action series starting tomorrow. There's some stuff in this trailer that I've already covered in my previous breakdowns, and if you're brand new and haven't seen any of them, there will be a link to a playlist with all of them in the description. In this breakdown, I'll be covering most of the completely new sequences or details that I think are the most worthwhile. As always, I try and make these live action videos with the intent of being engaging and informative for both longtime fans as well as any potential new One Piece fans, so I'll be trying my best not to give away any big secrets or reveals that are best experienced within the context of the manga, the anime, or now the live action itself. So with all that said, let's get into it. We get this look at the map of the East Blue that we saw in prior trailers. A few weeks ago, there was an exhibition of some of the props used in the series, and this map was among them. In this image, we can make out some key places, such as Dawn Island, where Windmill Village is located and Luffy is from, Shell's Town, the Konomi Islands, where Nami is from, and what looks to be Orange Town. There's also Mirror Ball Island down here, which is the island where most of Django's cover story takes place, as well as the home of the in-universe fashion brand Doskoi Panda. That's a really cool Easter egg. You'll also notice Loguetown over here, the place where Roger was born and executed. And of course, surrounding the East Blue, we have the Red Line, the Grand Line, the Calm Belt, stuff like that. All places that we'll cover in Season 2, most likely. Nami asserts that the One Piece is a myth, to which Luffy replies, "Can't wait to see the look on your face when we find it." Now, a lot of the dialogue in this series is going to be original, and not necessarily carried over from the source material. In a recent interview with the New York Times, Oda himself spoke on the differences between the mediums of live action and manga and the necessary changes you have to make between the two. If you have any hesitations yourself, I think it's important to keep this in mind. This is not trying to replace nor retell the story as it took place in the manga. There's this really cool transition to Shellstown where we start off on a map or some parchment and it turns into that shot we've seen in the previous trailers. This could explain why it looked a little bit dull in the Inside the Story promo compared to how it was presented in the teaser trailer itself. Luffy and Kobe look up at the night sky from their little boat. Notice the half moon in the back. Celestial objects such as the moon are a big part of One Piece's story, and the moon is usually present whenever an important or momentous scene is depicted in the manga. Oda even used to name various chapters after phases of the moon, so I'm so glad that they've kept this little thematic detail in as part of the live action as well. We have this cool shot of all these various ships outside of a port. Now, it's hard to place where this is exactly, but if you notice closely, this ship right here looks to be Mihawk's coffin boat. Now, in the source material, Mihawk, of course, visits the Baratier, as we've seen in the prior trailers, but this isn't the Baratier. This is a full-fledged island. So my guess is that the town we see in the back here is actually Loguetown, and this shot is of all the various pirates setting sail after witnessing Roger's execution. The architecture resembles that of Loguetown too. This roof as well as this dome may be the ones from the buildings we saw during Roger's execution, and over here we see a building that looks an awful lot like the Marine base in Loguetown. As we know from Chapter 0, Mihawk was present at Roger's execution, so that explains his ship. There are a couple other ships here that I'm not too certain about. I've been trying to place them. This ship right here has a similar color scheme to that of the Oro Jackson, the ship of the Roger Pirates, as well as what could be the mermaid or two as the figurehead. And on the other side here, we have a pink-coated ship that sort of resembles the Black Cat Pirates ship as it was depicted in one episode of the anime, though the official color scheme is a little bit different. But I think both of these guesses don't make that much sense. I'm sure we'll get a better look at this shot within the context of the episode, but if you have any ideas on whose ships these could be in the meantime, I'd love to hear in the comments. We see Kobe looking at the Going Merry through a looking glass, with Garp standing right behind him. And if it wasn't evident by now, it really does seem like Garp and the Marines will be tailing the Straw Hats across the East Blue in this series, as we suggested in the episode title and plot synopsis breakdown. Mihawk brings up King of the Pirates, and this is likely an adaptation of Luffy and Mihawk's brief interaction from the manga, where Mihawk tells Luffy that his path is even more difficult than Zoro's. Speaking of, we get an extended sequence of their bout between the two. We see Zoro prepare his blades to do the iconic 3000 Worlds move, but there's a part later on in this trailer that's really interesting to me. I think we're supposed to think that this is just part of the Baratier sequence with the dialogue that's going on, but if you look at the ground, well, it's the ground. The Baratier is a seafaring restaurant in the middle of the ocean, so there shouldn't be any ground to stand on. My hope is that this scene is actually an adaptation of Mihawk's encounter with Shanks in Chapter 96. But looking at the damage in the background, this could perhaps even be a flashback from Don Krieg or Geen recalling when Mihawk destroyed their fleet. I'm super curious to see how this plays out. Arlong and his crew walk through the doors of the Bratier, and we get our first good look at Chu. We saw a brief glimpse of him in a previous trailer as he was present in the background, but I love the practical effects used on the fisherman in this series. I know people have their hesitations, but they're going for a bit more of a hyper-realistic look, and I think it really does work. It just may take a little bit of time for you to get used to. I'll note that there may be a cut to a different person entering a different set of doors, as the boots we see here may not be the boots that we see Arlong wearing later in the trailer when we see him kicking Luffy off the dock. But we'll have to see how it goes. Now, one of my favorite shots from this trailer is that of Kurubi swimming through the water. It looks absolutely stunning and really conveys how adept fishermen are in their natural habitat. Let's talk about the big top real quick. A couple of new shots of Buggy here, and there's the shot of a woman with a flintlock. I'm not exactly sure who this is. It could be just an extra or a random crewmate. She definitely looks to be at Buggy's big top circus tent looking at the background, but we'll just get a better idea of who this actually is when we get to the episode itself. We get our first clear look at Kabaji, played by Sven Roigrak. We discussed in a previous breakdown how Kabaji is a member of Buggy's Pirates, and apparently the actor is actually a trained acrobat who performed as part of the Cirque du Soleil. So this is some spot-on casting here. He's exchanging some words about Luffy with Zoro, who has been pinned to a giant dartboard. The episode with Buggy Circus seems to have a lot of these deadly carnival games associated with it, as we see Luffy trapped in a water tank later on in this trailer. And then there's this great close-up shot of Garp's marine ship with the dog figurehead in all of its glory. This thing looks amazing. Speaking of, we get our first look at Garp's dialogue. Vincent Reagan sounds great. The delivery of these lines is so full and really works, and he's wearing his hat with the dog's head, just like he did in the source material. Oh, it's so good. Standing beside him is Bogard, who I suspected was on the boat back in our teaser trailer breakdown. We got some promotional stills recently giving us a better look at him, and he's played by Armando Camp. This is all part of an extended sequence of the crew defending against the cannonball shot from Garp's ship, something that we've been piecing together over the past few weeks. Nami opens the doors into the interior of a building in Arlong Park, and you can tell from the floor that this is the same set where Arlong and Luffy do battle as shown in the previous trailers. This is likely an adaptation of the map room from the source material. Then there's this awesome sequence of Nami fighting a marine soldier while she's in her marine disguise. This seems to be taking place inside the Shellstown Marine Base, and judging from all the scrolls in the room, this may actually be where she gets that map to the Grand Line that we talked about earlier. Also, the bow staff that she's using seems to be able to extend outwards as opposed to being 3 separate parts that she puts together like in the manga. And while I think this is just for practical purposes, I do think it's kind of cool to think about this with the context of how her staff works in the current manga. Usopp, Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro all look over a lit up Cocoyashi village, as we can tell by the tangerines, and then we get a close-up look of Genzo, the mayor of Cocoyashi. We saw a small glimpse of him in the background of a previous trailer, but here we can see him in all of his glory with his wild face scars and everything. The dialogue in this sequence just really hits, by the way, with Luffy talking about following your dreams and then Nami's response of not everyone being allowed to. I really feel like that they're going to nail and perhaps even surpass the emotional beats that we get throughout the East Blue. Then there's the shot of the massive Garp ship falling as Kobe and Helmeppo try to dodge. I wonder if this is part of the earlier sequence where Garp's ship shoots at the Straw Hats. In the source material, another marine ship shoots at the crew, and Luffy deflects it using his Gum Gum balloon, but his aim is off and it ends up hitting the Bratier instead. Perhaps in this adaptation, the cannonball is going to be sent back at Garp's ship. There's this quick shot of Nami hitting someone, and it looks to be Sham or Siam, depending on when and how you encounter the character, a member of the Black Cat Pirates. We actually see them fight against Zoro later on in this trailer as well, and they're played by Bianca Oosthausen. Later on, there's this first-person perspective shot zooming through the mansion's hallways, which could be the captain of the Black Cat Pirates themselves. There's also this sequence of Garp asking for Straw Hat Luffy. This initial shot seems to be at the marine base in Shellstown, as we can tell from the poster of Morgan on the wall, and perhaps this is when Garp first meets Kobe. But in the back, you can make out a Transponder Snail. We recently got some promotional stills of these guys over the last few weeks, and I was blown away by how they looked. Apparently, these things are all practical puppets with very slight CGI used for some of the movement. And honestly, they outdid themselves with this. And there's a later shot of Garp where he throws his Admiral jacket off in this scene, which looks to be taking place at either Syrup Village or Cocoyashi Village from the looks of the trees. So perhaps he does actually catch up to our Straw Hat crew. But we'll have to see. Now, one of the final scenes of this trailer is Luffy and Nami falling out of the window of the Shellstown Marine Base with a treasure chest. This is probably the same chest that we saw with them in the previous trailers. Luffy's actor Iñaki Godoy actually talked about doing this stunt recently in an interview with Teen Vogue, so check that out if you haven't yet. The very last shot is of Luffy and Zoro exchanging some words in this decadent room that looks to be filled with flowers. Not exactly sure where this could be, perhaps Kai's mansion, but they had these black outfits on. Across these trailer breakdowns, I've talked about how great the creators of the show have been with taking all these various outfits the Straw Hats have worn across the source material, like volume covers, color pages, stuff like that, and putting them into the show itself. These outfits seem to be from the cover of Volume 6, with Zoro in this black suit jacket with a collared yellow shirt underneath, although Luffy does seem to just have a black vest here. And that's about it for the things I wanted to talk about in this final trailer. We are so close to the live action series, and I really can't wait. Like I said, I will be doing in-depth breakdowns for the series across the next week, and I can't thank you enough for all the support you've shown me and my channel over the past few months with this live action series. I'm so grateful to be able to make these breakdowns and share my love for One Piece with all of you, whether you're a longtime fan like myself or a brand new fan dipping your toes into this modern day epic. If you like these videos and want to get these breakdowns as soon as they come out, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.